What's going on, everybody? Ryan Knuppel here, episode 236 of the Knup Sports Show. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to another great episode of this show. We love to bring you leaders in sports doing amazing things in this industry we all love, and we have another amazing guest for you today. Cannot wait to share his story and what they're up to as well. Sports are going crazy right now. We got NFL season in the thick of it. Actually, starting to shape up playoffs and things of that nature. So hopefully your team is still battling and you're not the Cowboys or somebody like that who are not battling anymore. So hopefully your team's doing well there. College sports are always fun with basketball going, football still rolling. We're about the bowl season already. I cannot believe how fast football season goes. But hopefully you guys are all enjoying the sports season as always. All right, I don't think I have a lot of housekeeping for you today. As you know, the SBC events, we're media partners with them. They just got done for the year, but next year they're going to have some amazing events. We'll start promoting those a little bit here as the time comes. But I have a break from events so we can take a few months off over the holidays, round up for 2025, and be ready to see all of your smiling faces at these events coming next year. All right, let's go ahead and bring on our guest for today. Today we have none other than Greg Glass. Greg Glass is with Fanstake. How are you, Greg?
Doing well, Ryan. Excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Super excited to hear about you and your story and what you have going on with Fanstake. First off, Fanstake. We won't get into that yet, but who are you a fan of? Where you living? Who you loving these days in sports?
Yeah, I'm like, look, this might be a tough way to start. I'm a rabid fan of Duke and Duke basketball in particular. And already I can feel like the haters, like that's part of being a Duke fan, right? Yeah. It was interesting. The genesis for some of this idea came back to trying to retain some of the Duke players that we know and love. And it's, been a one and done culture for so long that we're like, my God, like if we could actually keep these kids for a little bit longer, it would be genuinely interesting. And, some of the mechanisms that we've developed with Fanstake are to address some of that. So yeah, major Duke basketball fan. Cool. Off to a good start. I think that, really excited about kids like Knuppel, Cooper Flag, obviously. Tough loss to Kentucky out of the gate, but they're going to bounce back. They're a young team with some good mature transfers, and excited about how things are looking. And I think Shire's doing an amazing job.
Yeah, it seems like he is, and there's a lot of energy around that team right now, obviously with those youngsters leading the way. And I like raise my eyebrows when I see the Con name. I'm like, wait, Knuppel. My last name is Knuppel. I'm like, wait, what? Somebody's using my name, because I never see my name anywhere, and it's like a little one letter off.
The fun thing is that every time he hits a 3, you can say triple for Knuppel, and we all really genuinely love that.
Yeah, seems like a lot of energy there, so that's amazing. Great time to be a Duke fan. Probably is never a bad time to be a Duke fan. They always seem to have their things in order, but you never knew what was going to happen after Coach K left, and it's good to see that they're kind of picking up where they left off, and I think they have another great coach, as you alluded to there. So anyway, we can talk Duke all day, but let's dive into you a little bit more. I want to get to know you a little bit. What makes you tick? Kind of give us your story that kind of led you up to where you are today with Fanstake.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll talk kind of about not just myself, but my co-founders as well. Donnie, Alex, and I have worked together for years. And in fact, Donnie and I have known each other going all the way back, to college days. And that's when we first met. We were both like 19 years old. A lot older now, but we, have been working together for a long time. First company that we were part of the executive team and founders at was a company called Bizzo, which was in the ad tech space. Very successful, great experience. We ended up starting that in 2008. We sold to LinkedIn in 2014. And, just an ideal kind of startup experience in that it was an incredible culture. We got a chance to, get over to LinkedIn. We all stayed there for several years, nothing but amazing things to say about the crew there. And then have gone on to do a bunch of separate things. And so Alex most recently was the chief technology officer at Headspace, the meditation app. Donnie was the chief technology officer at companies like Guild and a number of others. And I've been working at various startups, and most recently was working at a prop tech that is a Series C company. But really, we all came together because we wanted to kind of get the band back together, do something really fun, and work on something we were passionate about. And with startups in general, we had a lot of ideas, and everything from stuff that was in ed tech or climate. But when it came to the college sports world, obviously we love it, but it was also timing. We felt like there have been some unique challenges with the NCAA and how this has evolved through the years. And we felt like the time was right to really try to introduce some new mechanisms to the fan base, to the athletes, to the colleges, to the collectives. And it just made sense. And so we got the band back together. We were able to recruit some fantastic talent, a lot of former athletes and awesome marketers, engineers, and so on, and partnered with some incredible investors to kick this thing off.
Well, that's cool because you already have like a leg up, right? Because you know who you're working with. You guys have experience together, and like that's half the battle sometimes, right? Like working with people you enjoy working with and that can do amazing things. And so,
amen.
You got a check box from the beginning to really dive in and make some things happen. There's nothing better than that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's it. Like, look, at this stage in our careers, and I hope this for everyone, it's mostly about like genuinely enjoying the work, enjoying the people you're doing it with. We all kind of have, low egos. It's a pretty flat organization, and we just all want to, work on fun stuff and do it the right way and build the right kind of culture. I think that's part of it too. It's not just the products you build, it's the company at the end of the day. To that Bizzo experience, to an individual, I think if you ask any of the 175 employees that were at Bizzo, everyone was like, that was the greatest professional experience of my career. And we love that. And we're looking to kind of bring that back where it takes a lot of thought, but it also takes hiring the right people and giving them the autonomy to execute the way that we know they can.
Sure, absolutely. So Fanstake. So let's dive in. I'm gonna pull it up on the screen here. I'll pull up fanstake.com as well. But why don't you give the audience, in case they have, I know you're right around launch, so in case they haven't heard of you already, tell us what you guys do, what you're up to, and what problem you're solving.
Yeah, totally. So it's a competitive recruiting platform for college athletics. And so we allow fans to contribute to an athlete's NIL fund. What's really unique about it, though, is that there's no risk. And so as a fan, and let's say, I am a Duke fan, so I can come in and say, look, I would love to see Knuppel come back for another year. Right now, he's projected somewhere around 6 or 7 in the NBA draft. Tough decision for him to come back to Duke. But we've seen time and time again, athletes want to stay in college. They're 18 years old. Who doesn't want to stay in college a couple of years, continue to develop? Like, it's an amazing experience, but they're sort of forced to go into the pro leagues. And you can't blame them. But we were thinking about this, and this goes all the way back to the Zion Williamson days where he was torn, and everyone's like, dude, you've got to go. Like, that's an insane decision to come back. But he genuinely wanted to come back to school. And we were talking about it like, well, what if we actually, amongst all the Duke fans, were able to throw in 10, 20, 50 bucks each, 100 bucks each? Is there suddenly enough money to give him a chance to say, actually, yeah, I can stay for 2, 3, 4 years, get my degree, continue to develop, enjoy the college experience, and then go on to the pro leagues? And so the genesis for this idea started with that, where it's mainly about retention. It's mainly about, can we keep our teams together? Thinking back about Duke as a, for a while now has been predominantly a one and done type school. You're getting some of the top recruits. Yep. And the idea being like, we would love to see if we could actually get these guys to come back for a little bit. But then it opens up all this other competition in the space. And so the context here is like, all right, if I could, contribute directly along with the other fan base to an NIL deal, If Knuppel comes back, it converts into a deal, and that's the way it works. Is that it's funded by Fanstake, and we do a genuine endorsement deal with them. And if he doesn't come back, as a fan, I would get my money back in my account, and so there's no risk. And that's the mechanic that's so interesting because it does a few things, especially when you consider. Let's take a transfer. Someone who might potentially be in the transfer portal. You can actually now sort of set up the competitive dynamics where, one of the things that we feel like is really important is to bring some of the tenets of capitalism to this market, some free market transparency. And so if an athlete can see that, all right, well, the Duke fan base is offering about $100,000, and the Tennessee fan base has 90,000, and UConn has 150,000. Well, it's not necessarily what drives the decision, but it's a component, just like any other component and any other variable we all consider professionally, where they're thinking about playing time, coaching staff, facilities, teammates, all that. But money is a part of it now, and I feel like if we're ignoring it, or if we're trying to bury that headline, we're doing everyone an injustice. These are professionals. And so that's essentially what the platform allows for, where we're opening it up to the fans in a no-risk way to participate and, in a way, play sort of a fractional GM role, where you could say, look, this is the team I would ideally want. And if you get those athletes, you succeed. If not, you get your money back and you can play another day.
Yeah, and you feel a little part of it, right? You're like, hey, I helped contribute to that decision as a fan. Yeah, I love
Absolutely.
that concept. And as a fan, we all want to kind of feel that way, but we, really had no way in the past. And so it's really cool, the dynamic of this. And so speak a little bit to just how the recent NIL changes
Yeah.
affect this. I mean, I'm assuming you couldn't have done this 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
This
and that's
direct business from NIL being legalized and things of that nature with college sports, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And so this has evolved directly out of first the Supreme Court ruling back in 2021, but most recently there was a federal injunction by a Tennessee judge that was placed on the NCAA in March of this year. And essentially what the judge said is like, hey, you cannot continue to prohibit these athletes from negotiating in advance of selecting a school. And that's essentially what we're allowing them to do. We're allowing them to see, okay, with all these different choices, what are the endorsement opportunities across this, full ecosystem? And once that injunction was placed on the NCAA, Charlie Baker came out and said, yeah, we're not going to continue to enforce that particular NIL bylaw. Since then, 5 other attorneys general around the country have signed on to a lawsuit against NCAA to make sure that their athletes have this right as well. And as part of the House settlement that is still working its way through the court, all of this will be enshrined. And so it opens up this ability, which is a necessity. And the judge had a great quote where they were talking about, look, if you were a college coach and you didn't actually know what your pay was going to be before selecting a school, there's no way. That would never be approved. And that's one of the things that it's hard to explain to folks, how challenging it is for these athletes today. And you also have to understand 99% of them are not going to go on to a higher level. And they've got 4 years to sort of maximize this unique talent that they have and monetize it. And I've always felt like, good on you, maximize that. It is unique. Look, I played sports when I was younger, never even remotely close being, to being good enough to play at a college level. These kids should have the ability to tap into this $19+ billion industry, and good on them. And I'm happy that the laws have all kind of changed in the direction of enablement for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been fun to watch, and I totally agree with you. They're more than deserving. The amount of money that comes into the colleges, first of all, and them being the ones that are driving that. So it is refreshing to see nice to see as well. So let's talk a little bit about the logistics of it all. So
Yeah.
from you guys' side, do you have to? So do you form a relationship with the athlete first, or can you take donations for
Yeah.
any athlete regardless of their cooperations? Talk a little bit about how the whole process works from end to end.
Totally. And so the way it works is we have all today men's and women's college basketball players, as well as all football players on the platform already. And so this is all the publicly available information that's out there. Now, eventually, we would like to get all sports, and that's something that in the coming months we're going to be working on to make sure that everyone can tap into this.
Cool.
But yeah, the way it works in terms of the mechanics here is that a fan can come in, they make a contribution or a stake directly to a particular athlete. What they're actually doing is kind of paying us for our recruiting services. And so we don't enter into an endorsement agreement with the athlete until after they select a school. So for the athlete, they start to see what is the free and fair market, transparent, competition that's happening. And then once they make a decision, let's say an athlete says, okay, I'm going to go play football at Michigan. We will then say, all right, there's, $50,000 here for you in the, that's been funded by the Michigan fan base. And we offer them an endorsement deal. And what they have to do is actual quid pro quo endorsement deal. They have to, and it's typically a social media post, but everyone is custom. Go on social media, promote Fanstake. And this is legit. Like for our purposes, when we talk about like authentic NIL, we need these endorsements. This is going to be our primary source of marketing. And so they promote us, and then more fans see us, and hopefully you have that cycle where we continue to grow. And so that's the way it works, where there are actually two distinct transactions. It's a one to Fanstake, and then Fanstake engages with the athlete. And then if the athlete chooses not to engage for any reason, the fans would still get their money back.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So total choice. Now, what we've seen, which has been really exciting, is so we're already talking to some pretty high profile athletes, which I can't announce quite yet, but there's a couple coming. And what I loved is that they're actually not that interested in taking the money directly. They want to contribute to their teammates. One actually wants to contribute to a foundation that he really cares about. And so what we end up doing in those scenarios, it's awesome, because let's say you have a particular player who wants to support their entire offensive line. Like, fantastic. We'll divide the money amongst like those players who typically aren't getting very good NIL deals.
Right.
And then, if you're going to contribute to a nonprofit, Fanstake won't take a percentage at all. So the way we make our money is a small percentage on the closed stakes only.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, let's go back to that Michigan scenario. Let's say there's $100,000. We take less than 7%, 90% goes to the athlete, 3% goes to teammates and or nonprofits. Then the athlete has the ability to change that percentage. And so they can say, actually, I want more to go this way.
Yeah.
And if they give 100% to nonprofits, we will we'll make sure 100% of it goes to nonprofits, and we don't take our cut either.
Very cool. Very cool. So if I'm a fan, how do I get started with something like this? Is it just sign in and put my money on somebody? I mean,
that's right. Go to fanstake.com and start checking it out. So when you log in, the very first thing you're going to do is identify which team you're a fan of. And then we're going to show you some of the players that are on your roster. I think a lot of folks, including collectives, the priority is actually retention. One of the fascinating things, because we've talked with and we're working closely with a number of collectives. In fact, we're associated with the Collective Association as well. Most of the money, and this has been a misconception, actually goes towards retention, not necessarily recruiting. It's keeping your team together. And so the very first thing we show folks is who's on your team today. And your stake is actually saying, all right, I want to put $10 towards this player. And it's to try to encourage him to stick around for another year, him or her. And then you have the ability to share to other fans. The power of this ultimately comes when fan bases come together. So an individual stake typically isn't going to do that much, but if you start getting, all the Michigan fans, all the UCLA fans to throw in $5-10 each, suddenly it's significant. And that's really what we're trying to do, where we're influencing the players to stick around rather than test the portal, right? And like, that's another part of the challenge right now is in terms of the dynamics of the portal, the incentive right now is to put your name in, because then you have free market competition. And then you're like, all right, now I have schools competing for me. If you don't put your name in, you're sort of limited to whatever you could potentially get locally. And so we're trying to push against that narrative. We're saying, look, we should be focused on retention from the start. Money is a part of this game. Let's try to make sure that our players are doing it right. And so we can continue to build the team and develop these athletes we already have on the roster. So yeah, go to fanstake.com. We're live. Find your team, find your players. And then you have the ability to look at high school recruits. You can look at players from other teams as well. So if you do potentially want to get a transfer, we actually are doing $1 million match out of the gate, where we're giving you the ability to, put some money on a transfer athlete. Let's see what happens, and we'll match that because we want that competition starting from the jump.
It's really cool. So as I pull this up here, we're going to look at your beloved Duke Blue Devils. I mean, so
right.
We're talking. These are new. Somebody wants Nate Ament to come to Duke. Somebody wants Koa Pete to come to Duke next year. And then we got Cooper Flagg.
And someone or several people probably want Nate to come to Virginia ahead of Duke, which is competing there. That is like that, now you start to see the competitive dynamics, right? Exactly. Where this is looks like shooting forward who clearly has some demand in the ACC, and I might have to find out who Nate Ament is and get involved with this. Yeah,
and get my friends involved, and let's all put $10 and get them up over the hump. I mean, I can totally see. I know you've mentioned quite a few times on the retention side of it, but I could really see, because I think these high school athletes, they really, they obviously have to choose where they're going. They're not going pro yet, most likely. Where are they going for that first year? And so I can totally see this playing a big piece in their mind. Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get that much money if I go here. Like that's in their mind from the beginning. Right. And so seeing that's pretty cool.
And it gives them a sense to, and like, look, that's part of it, but also, it's not like, and these are relatively small numbers, but let's say it builds with Virginia and Duke, and that ends up being the competition.
Right.
Well, if it's comparable, I don't think either one really swings it, but you do know that you're going to get that money, and then you make a decision based on, look, I just am very comfortable with the Virginia coaching staff or whatever it might be.
Sure.
And so that's where it starts to get really interesting, where athletes know that there's an audience that is showing the demand, and they want me here. And, I love that. Like, I like the idea that a lot of us are diehards with this stuff, and we're a little bit fanatical, in some cases, maybe an unhealthy amount, where I'm constantly looking at the recruiting boards and trying to find out what's happening. And I want some level of influence, and I want it in a way where it's fun for me, but it's also risk-free. It's also like, all right, I'm not going to give, let's say I give $1,000 a year, and that's approximately, what I would be thinking about. Yeah. I know where it's going. I know that I'm either getting the team I want personally and the needs I want, and I have strong opinions on that, of like what we're missing, versus just giving it to, writing a blank check and be like, all right, like, I don't know where that goes, and that's the mechanism that's a little bit different than how it's been done before, where you now have a little bit of influence.
Sure. I love it. So let's talk about where you're at before we close up here. I know we're going a little long here for you, but let's talk about where you're at, where you're headed. So you just went through a launch of the product, and so what's this near and long-term future look like for you guys? Is it now just all about acquiring users and getting people to know what Fanstake is? Is that the next step in this phase? But where are you guys at? Product.
Yeah, absolutely. So, on the business side of things, we raised from a couple of incredible investors, Will Ventures, who are all kind of ex NCAA, NFL players, and Sousa Ventures, a preeminent fund that is out here in Silicon Valley, led the round. We raised $3 million to really launch and get this concept out there, make sure that folks are aware that it is something that's in the ecosystem today. And I think a big part for us right now is explaining it, is actually trying to let everyone know how this is going to be good for all parties. And I think everyone sees like, well, yeah, I see the benefit for the athletes, but this is also very good for the colleges, for the NCAA, for the collectives, for the fans. And that's our primary objective right now, is to try to explain the challenges with the House settlement, how this is actually going to play out. Let's assume it does get approved. It's creating this environment where you're going to see the haves and the have-nots. You're seeing already some of the fracture that's happening, where you have the Power Four schools, and then you're going to have the G5 and beyond, who can't compete, who can't actually participate in this settlement. And you're not going to have that environment that is as balanced anymore. You're not going to have the Cinderellas. And that's something that is devastating to me, as much as like I'm a Duke fan. But part of what makes this great is a democratized environment. Part of it is that at any point you could have one of those great upsets, and you see it already in the college football season. NIL, one of the things people don't really talk about is you're seeing a lot more parity. You're seeing week to week crazy upsets.
Sure.
And part of that is that there's a bigger distribution of talent. And so we feel like exposing this to the free market, shining a light on it, putting some transparency to it, where it's not just backroom deals, is going to be beneficial. And at the end of the day, the NCAA is still in a position where, unfortunately, they are kind of a walking, talking antitrust violation. And it's important that they get to collective bargaining. Yeah. This is a path we feel like is going to be a part of it, where like, okay, we'll accept the cap on the rev share as an athlete, but then we need maximum NIL opportunities in addition to that. And that feels like a collective bargaining stance that they could agree to. And so this puts the NCAA in a position where, all right, yeah, we can finally get to a point where we're not constantly being sued and losing because they're going against all the antitrust laws in the United States. So a big part of what we're trying to do right now is that explanation, to talk about why is this going to be good for all schools, for the NCAA, for athletes, for fans, where they can directly participate. And then, we've got a lot of interesting things coming over the next 6 to 12 months as well. I think expanding to other sports, making sure that the collectives actually have a voice and continue to have a voice, who we've been supportive of in helping them out in their process. And some more things that I can't quite talk about yet, but a lot of interesting directions that we can take this, that we're excited to introduce to the public as soon as we're ready.
Well, Greg, it's an amazing concept. So props to you guys for, I don't know, just the cool business idea, because I love cool businesses and love when you're, really tackling something you love. And just congrats on that to you and your team. That's a really cool concept, and I'm sure it's going to take off. Hey, before I let you go, what's one last one request you would have of the audience? I mean, is there anything you guys need, anything you're looking for, anything you need help with? Sounds like you have it all, and you have all your ducks.
No, we're a startup. You've got nothing in hand.
I want to ask everyone, what would that be? Would it be just to sign up at fanstake.com and check it out, or what?
Yes, I that's really what we want, Ryan. And by the way, thanks so much for having us on. This is a blast. Love your show and love what you're doing. I would love it if folks would go to fanstake.com, put a small stake in, check it out, play with it, and share with your friends. I think that's the unique thing, is like most of us who follow college sports typically have friends who follow college sports, and together you can actually make a significant impact. So as the transfer portal is coming, especially if your team's struggling, think about what you might need, get on Fanstake, and let's see if you can make an impact.
Cool. Amazing. Awesome, Greg. Well, I really appreciate you coming on, and can't wait to have you on a year from now, and we'll catch up on the success Fanstake's had.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Greg, have a great one. All right, that was Greg Glass of Fanstake. I hope you enjoyed that show. Man, what a cool concept. I'm going to dive out there and start looking at some of this stuff after this. hey, put your money where your mouth is. Put your money with your fandom, right? Help build your team. You can say you played a part in it. What a cool concept. These kids also that are getting paid for this, they're going to appreciate that as well, right? The Greg alluded to, it doesn't just help the kids; it helps the teams and the coaches and the programs and the NCAA and everybody as a collective whole. So a really cool concept. I'm excited to kind of keep a pulse on what Fanstake does here in the future. I'm sure it'll be amazing things. All right, that's all we have for episode 236. Really appreciate you tuning in. Until next time, I'm Ryan Knuppel. Take care, stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.